the military. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. on the East Coast. And we talk about military doctrine, military history, the practices of great military leaders, all by way of distilling lessons that we can apply to our professional lives. So today, I'm going to talk about how the military rewards its people. So, for anyone who's been in the military, you know this is the case. There's no such thing as getting a bonus in the sense of a monetary bonus. So, you get paid what you get paid, and in fact, there's a whole schedule that determines what your pay is based on your rate or rank and the number of years you've been in the service. So the only way to increase your salary is to advance, in other words, go up in rate or rank, or to stay in longer. And that's really it. There's no such thing as overtime or anything like that. Now, military pay typically includes what's called BAS, basic allowance for subsistence. And so I think these days it's around $200-300 a month, depending on whether you're single or have a family. And then they have what's called BAH, basic allowance for housing. So if you don't live in the barracks, you will typically get BAH, basic allowance for housing, and that pays for your rent, essentially. And some people live on base, but a lot of the on-base housing now is private. And some people live off base, in which case it's typically owned by a private company or a private individual, and they pay their rent. And some people are pretty good about getting stationed in places that have high BAH, where they may get, say, $3,000 a month for BAH, but their rent is only $2,500 a month. And so they essentially keep that additional $500 a month. But that's not because they've performed better than average or something like that. That's just because they were clever about how they handled their housing situation. There are things like hazard pay, family separation pay, flight pay, all of these things. When your duty is more hazardous or takes you away from your family, you get paid more. But again, not because you're doing something better than somebody else. It's just you're in one of those situations, and therefore you get paid. So when I was deployed on the carrier, I got after, I think you have to be at sea for like 30 days or 90 days. I forget what the rules are now. But anyway, after a certain period at sea, you get sea pay. And it's a little bit extra per day that you're at sea. And if you're separated from your family for more than a certain number of days, you get family separation pay. And that's, I think, a certain amount each month or something like that. So, I mean, they're nice. They don't they don't really compensate for being away from your family, frankly. And they don't being, sea pay doesn't compensate for being at sea. Believe me, it doesn't. And for an officer, sea pay, you have to pay for your meals on the ship. So, your sea pay ends up, paying for that basically. But, none of these types of compensation are tied to any sort of superior or extraordinary effort on the part of a service member. So the military, over the decades and centuries, has come up with a way of rewarding superior or meritorious or heroic conduct on the behalf of service members. And they do it through what are called medals or personal decorations and such. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and show you. Okay, so what you're seeing here on this is just a Wikipedia page, and these are what are called awards and decorations that are awarded to service members. Now, this picture right here is what's called the ribbon rack. And this particular service member is a Master Chief Petty Officer. You can tell because this badge here has the Chief Petty Officer's anchor on it, and it's got 2 stars. Okay, so that's a Master Chief Petty Officer, and in fact, this is a Command Master Chief because it has the word command here. So if it had only 1 star above the anchor, that would be a Senior Chief Petty Officer, and if it had no stars, it would be just a Chief Petty Officer. Now, you'll see a number of things here. So some of these are what are called qualifications. So this badge right here is telling the position that this Master Chief Petty Officer has within the command, which is as the Command Chief Petty Officer. He is the senior enlisted member of that command. And so the commanding officer typically will run all matters related to enlisted people by and or through the CMC, the Master Chief Petty Officer. The Command Master Chief that's what CMC stands for, Command Master Chief. In fact, my friend John, he was the CMC when I was at ACC Log Wing. That's the air wing that's up at Point Magoo, and everything that happened with enlisted people, John knew about. He was involved with. He was. I'll give him his due. He was an outstanding Master Chief Petty Officer, and we remain friends to this day. Okay, so that this is the position in the command, and it's one thing to become a Chief Petty Officer. It's another thing to become a Senior Chief or a Master Chief. When you're a CMC, you're really at the very peak of the enlisted ranks in the Navy. Okay, and you don't get additional pay for being a Command Chief Petty Officer. What you get is the prestige of being a CMC, which separates you or kind of puts you ahead of all the other Master Chief Petty Officers. Now, ahead of or senior, in essence, to a Command Master Chief is something called a Force Master Chief. So a Force Master Chief is the senior enlisted person for an entire set of commands, basically. Okay, and then you have something called the MCPON, which is the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. And this person is the most senior enlisted person in the entire Navy. Okay, and that person works directly with the CNO, the Chief of Naval Operations. Okay, but the MCPON does not get any more pay than a Master Chief Petty Officer gets who has the same number of years of service. Okay, so but they do get to wear this badge. In the case of the MCPON, it doesn't say command. I think it says MCPON on it, and so they have the prestige of that position. Okay, now these two things here, this right here and this right here, these are qualification badges. So this one here is the enlisted air warfare qualification. And this one up here looks to me like the enlisted surface warfare qualification. So while he's still wearing them as a Master Chief Petty Officer or a CMC, he probably earned these very early in his career. It's one of the first things a sailor does. And these badges are earned for learning about these areas of warfare, air warfare and surface warfare. Okay, so their qualification, they have a list of topics that they have to learn about. Okay, and as they learn each one and they get tested on it and they're signed off on it, once they're signed off on all of them, then they get to wear this particular badge. It doesn't entitle them to any greater pay. Okay, it can make a difference on how quickly they are promoted. Okay, so a junior sailor, let's say a seaman, an E3, who gets these badges, right away, works very, very hard to get them right away. That E3 will most likely be in line to be promoted to E4, to petty officer third class, more quickly than another sailor who doesn't work hard to get these badges. But the badges themselves don't entitle them to any greater pay. Again, this is all by way of um, 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 facilitating advancement through the rates. Okay, so and by the way, lots and lots and lots of sailors get these badges. And by the way, there are officer equivalents for both of these. And to a certain extent, the same is true for officers, depending on what particular corps they belong to. Okay, but the real sort of award and reward system are these right here. Now, what you see here are called ribbons. Now, many of these ribbons also have a medal that goes with them. Okay, and what you see here on this CMC's uniform is what's called his ribbon rack. You'll notice they're in groups of threes, except for this top one. There's only two because he has an uneven. The number he has doesn't divide evenly by three. That's all it really comes down to. And I'm going to talk about some of these because anyone who's been, in this case, in the Navy can look at this and they know quite a bit about this sailor's career. Okay, so for example, this ribbon right here, this is a campaign ribbon, and it's the I think it's the Iraqi War ribbon. I want to say. Let's see, where is it? No. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. That's not here. Oh, you know what? That because that one's no longer awarded. Actually, this is the Kuwait campaign ribbon, I believe. And this particular CMC, probably when he was much junior, he participated in the first Gulf War in the Kuwait campaign, and he was given that ribbon. Now, there's no medal connected with that. It's just a campaign ribbon. Okay, bouncing up here, this is what's called the GWAT service ribbon, and that is here. Let's see, where did I see it? Here it is, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. Okay, and you can see the medal here, and you can see the ribbon is really just a copy of the ribbon that's on the medal. Okay, and so anyone who was in the military on or after March 12, 2003 gets this GWAT service medal. Okay, now I'm going to bounce above that. You have the National Defense Service Medal. This was established in 1953, and you see this here. See that right there? Okay, that medal is given to anyone who spends at least one day on active duty in the military. Okay, so and then this one right here under the National Defense Medal, this is the GWAT Expeditionary Medal. So I'm going to take you back down here. Where are the expeditionary medals? Okay, here you go. The Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal. So it was created at the same time as the GWAT Service Medal. The difference is that someone who has the GWAT Expeditionary Medal did some sort of campaign. In my case, I was deployed to the Gulf, to the Persian Gulf, and by virtue of being in that area, I was awarded the GWAT Expeditionary Medal. Okay, so one of the things is these ones down here, a lot of people tend to get them because they're awarded really just for having certain things happen in your career. Okay. Now, I'm going to jump over to this one. If you see this, it's a maroon ribbon and it's got a bunch of stars on it. Now, this is an award that only enlisted people can earn, and it is the Good Conduct Medal. In this case, it's the Navy Good Conduct Medal. Okay. And you can see them all there on the screen. Okay, so the Navy Good Conduct Medal is given to an enlisted person who has basically a clean record for, I believe it's a period of 1 year. Okay, and so when you see here these stars on it, this means that this CMC was awarded multiple good conduct medals. So the first time you win a medal, you're given the medal itself. And the next time, instead of being given another medal, you basically put a star on your ribbon. And you would also, going back down here, okay, so here's the medal itself. So this isn't the Coast Guard. This is the Navy. I think they have it identified wrong here. So there would be a star on the ribbon of the medal showing that you were awarded it more than once. Okay, and I'll show you an example of that for myself. But okay, so these are all given to individuals. However, they're for somewhat routine. It's like the individual himself didn't do anything particularly meritorious or anything, but they participated in certain things, with the exception of the Good Conduct ribbon. So the Good Conduct medal, I should say, that was, a merit, not meritorious. It was good conduct on the part of this service member. Okay, so these are ones, and pretty much all the branches of the service have these. Now, these two down here, these are firearm qualifications. One is small arms and one is rifle. The Navy has medals and ribbons for that. The Army, I think, has badges, if I'm not mistaken, as does the Marine Corps, I think. So these are individual. These are more sort of qualifications, not unlike the surface and air warfare pins. Okay. You don't get any additional pay for these. And the E stands for expert, which is the top level. Sometimes you'll see them with an S. That stands for sharpshooter. And if you see them plain, it means they've qualified at the minimum level to get the medal, but they didn't qualify at the two higher levels. Okay. Now, let's go up to these then. Okay, so these ones here in this third row down, these are what are called unit citations. So in order to get a unit citation, the entire, in the case of the Navy, it could be the entire ship, works together in order to earn that. So you saw here the Navy E ribbon. Okay, so this is not a medal. This is a ribbon. Okay, and it has the E on it. The E stands for excellence. So each year or every 2 years, let's see if it says here. I don't recall. Yeah. I think it's every 2 years, but I could be wrong about that. So ships of the same type compete to be the best ship of its type in the Navy. Okay. And anyone who is on that ship as of a certain date, who has participated in that in that ship winning the Navy, what they call the Navy E, gets to wear this ribbon. Okay. And if you look here, you see he's got 3 E's on his ribbon, which means he was in 3 units that won the Navy E. Now, one of my favorite bits from popular culture is the show On the Town. And there's a song where they talk about winning a great big Navy E. People at the time that On the Town first came out, which was I think 1949, I believe. So they would have known what the Navy E meant. It meant excellence or efficiency. I think they're saying here it's efficiency. My understanding is Navy E ribbon, battle efficiency ribbon. I think it stands for excellence. But in any event, they knew what a Navy E meant. Okay, now back in World War II, you didn't get a ribbon when your ship won a Navy E. You had a little E patch that was sewn on the uniform sleeve of the enlisted uniform. It wasn't until 1976 that this ribbon was created, but the Navy E has been around for a long, long time, and it's something that the sailors get because they've worked together in order to make their ship the best of its type in the fleet. Okay, so that's called a unit citation. Now, this one here, I think, is the presidential unit citation. Let me look here. No, I take that back. That's the Navy Meritorious Unit Commendation. Okay, so this is kind of a mid-level award. And it's because your unit did something particularly good, but you did it as a unit, okay, not as an individual. You did it all together as a unit. Okay, so you see, you have these meritorious unit commendations, you have superior unit award, you have efficiency awards. Okay, those are all unit awards. Okay, now I'm going to jump up here because here you see you have what are called joint meritorious unit awards, and you have, here's the presidential unit citations. Okay, so these are higher awards than these ones down here. Okay, so these are all different types of unit awards, and depending on what you've done. So let's say that you had a combat unit, like a Marine Corps combat unit, and they did a particularly daring rescue mission. Maybe they saved some some civilians from being killed by terrorists. Okay, so they might get a Navy unit commendation. Okay, or they might get even a presidential unit citation, Navy and Marine Corps version. Okay, so it depends on how noteworthy, how dangerous what they did was. But again, it's all because they get them. Everybody in the unit gets it because presumably everybody in the unit contributed to its success. Okay, so these are unit commendations here. And this is I think this is a unit commendation too. Let me see, where are they? Da, 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 da. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is actually. This may be from some sort of foreign military or something. No, it wouldn't be foreign because that would be at the end. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I'm not going to take the time to do it. But anyway, so you have unit commendations which go to the group. And then finally, you have what are known as personal decorations. That's these here. Okay, and you see the list here, personal decorations. These are awards given to individuals because of something superior, meritorious, etc., that the person did. Okay, so excuse me. The kind of lowest level are what are called achievement medals. Okay, so you have the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. Now, this was an award I won early in my career at the and what the way I won it was because I provided chaplain services to the dental battalion on my base completely voluntarily, and no one asked me to do it. And it was a large unit. They had a headquarters, plus they had dental clinics on, I think, 4 or 5 bases. I used to visit them on a regular basis. And I used to bring, I think I've told this story before, I used to bring them food, basically all the sailors' food, right? And so for that achievement, that unit, the commanding officer of that unit awarded me the Marine Corps, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. Okay. Now, next in line are what are called commendation medals. So the one area where I have a problem with especially personal decorations in the military is they have what are called end of tour awards. So if you complete a tour of duty, and you don't get in any trouble, so you will, once you're at least like a petty officer, second or third or second class, you get an end of tour award. Okay, so my first end of tour award was when I was in Okinawa, and I was given the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal. Now, interestingly enough, I was submitted for the Meritorious Service Medal, but because I was with the Marine Corps would not give an officer of my rank. I was a Navy lieutenant, an 03. They would not give me a Meritorious Service Medal. They downgraded it to what's called a Navy a commendation medal. But it was nice to be submitted, for the higher award. Okay, and you can see on this sailor's uniform. Oh, that's interesting. He only, I don't see any stars. So, like on my uniform, I've got a Navy Commendation Medal with, I think it's 3 silver stars on it, because I was awarded that medal 4 times. Just, every time I, completed an assignment, I would get another one. It's sort of obnoxious. My last tour of duty, I refused to accept one because I so strongly disagree with end of tour awards. But in any event, these are for other. But you'll notice that the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal I got, which I frankly value higher than the Navy comms that I got, this was for actual superior service. It was for something I did that was out of the ordinary and really helped out a lot of sailors. Okay, so setting aside the whole sort of end of tour award thing, sometimes these medals are awarded for some kind of superior performance. So if you're a recruiter, for example, and you meet a certain recruiting goal, oftentimes you will get either a NAM, what's called a Navy Achievement Medal, or a a Navy Commendation Medal, for that superior performance. Okay, and these end of tour awards, I'm gonna skip the Air Medal and such and go up. Once you're a more senior officer, an 05 or an 06, so you may get a Meritorious Service Medal, as your end of tour award. So if you're a Navy captain, typically you're going to get a Meritorious Service Medal as your end of tour award. But you might also get one for some kind of superior service, and that's what they tried to do for me when I was in Okinawa. Okay, and by the way, had they been successful, that would have been so unusual for someone like me to get that medal as such a junior officer that it would have virtually ensured my promotion. So that's one of the ways that the military awards people, is by giving them these personal decorations, which can translate into the points they get toward promotion, and in some cases can virtually guarantee promotion. So let's just say I had been given this medal as a first tour lieutenant. Okay, when it came time for my record to be briefed at the promotion board, if the briefer had been on top of things, he would have known that it was extraordinarily unusual for a sailor in my situation to get it. And he would have briefed the promotion board saying, when Lieutenant Bemmel was given this award, 1/10 of 1% or 1/100th of 1% of officers get this award at Lieutenant Bemmel's level. This shows how extraordinary his service was when he was stationed with the Marine Corps. Okay. And that would carry tremendous weight with the promotion board. Okay, so these are for typically non-combat related superior service of some kind. Okay, they can be awarded for combat, but most often they're awarded for non-combat related activities. Okay, and so then we're going to go up to sort of the next group here. So you have the famous Purple Heart. This is if you're wounded in action. Okay, and then you have medals for non-combat heroism. I'm going to skip these, and I'm going to go up to the top. Well, first of all, you have the Bronze Star Medal, awarded for heroism in a combat zone or meritorious service in a war zone. Okay, that's the Bronze Star. That's about the lowest level of combat award there is. Okay, you have the Distinguished Flying Cross for heroism or extraordinary achievement in aerial flight. You have the Silver Star Medal, which is gallantry in action. Okay, I'm going to skip these because these distinguished service medals, again, typically not for combat. And then you get up to here, you have what are called the Service Cross medals, like the Navy Cross. So the Navy Cross is awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat. And then, of course, there's the most senior award, which is the Medal of Honor. Now, people call it the Congressional Medal of Honor. That is not the correct name. It is the Medal of Honor. And there's one for, it's slightly different for each of the service branches, but this is the highest award that a service member can get. And it comes in a ribbon that's put around the neck. The medal hangs below it. All the rest of these are more conventional looking medals, like you see here, the Coast Guard medal. Here's the Navy Cross. You see it's a ribbon with the medal, but it hangs on your breast. Okay, so all of these set up a system where people know what kind of medal they may get for the kind of action they take. Now, I will quickly say, I doubt the vast majority of people who ever earned a combat award were thinking, wow, if I do this, I'm going to get a Medal of Honor. First of all, way too dangerous, way too dangerous. So setting aside combat awards for a moment, for people who are awarded distinguished service medals, superior service medals, Legion of Merit, the various meritorious service medals, commendation medals, and achievement medals. Service members know what they need to do in order to get one of these medals. And they work to achieve that level of superior service in order to get these particular medals. And typically they want to get as high as they can. And in so doing, it helps them get promoted. Okay. And by being promoted, that increases their pay. Okay, so this is the system that the military has, and I've talked primarily about the Navy, but all of the service branches, the system works the same way. And in fact, I have an Army Commendation Medal because of, I'm sorry, not an Army Commendation Medal. I have an Army Achievement Medal because of some service I provided to the Army when I was in Germany. And this is all by way of each branch recognizing the performance, the superior performance of both its own members and of members from another service branch that are helping them, by way of then showing that this person is worthy of promotion. So why did I just go through this whole thing about awards? Well, we can do the same thing in the civilian world. We can set up a system of sort of participation awards, of unit awards, and of personal decorations. Especially now, this is something I've talked to a couple of nonprofit organizations about. So to offer these kinds of awards to your donors and your volunteers, okay, neither one of them is getting paid. So how can you encourage them to do more for your organization? Well, one of the ways is to create this kind of series of awards. And it may sound silly, but I can still remember when the headquarters and battalion services colonel awarded me my first Navy comm. And all of my colleagues were lined up in ranks, and I was called in front. I had to stand at attention. And he was actually my supervisor, read the citation that was submitted when it was requested that I be given this award. And after the citation was read, the colonel added a few comments of his own, and it was really one of the most appreciated things anyone in my military career ever said to me. And when he he actually clipped the medal onto my uniform. I really felt like I was part of something, that what I had done had been appreciated. Even though in this case it was an end of tour award, normally I would have been given, as a first tour lieutenant, I would have been given a NAM, a Navy Achievement Medal. But this colonel, he worked hard he wanted to give me the Meritorious Service Medal. The Marine Corps wouldn't let him. And he even mentioned that that's what he thought it should have been. But the Marine Corps disagreed with him. So, being a good Marine, this is what he gave me. So I really felt like all the hard work I had done, the sacrifices I had made in time away from my family, was really appreciated by my colonel in saying that. And I remember too, when the Dental Battalion commanding officer gave me the award I got for taking care of his battalion. And it was a complete surprise. I was visiting with the XO, and we were just chatting, and all of a sudden about a half a dozen people walk in the office, and they call attention to award. I'm like, who's getting an award? And the XO says, "You are, chaplain." I'm like, what? And I mean, again, it was really, I was very proud to be recognized in that way. I didn't take care of these sailors because I wanted a medal. I took care of them because nobody was taking care of them. I used to call those kind of sailors, they were in an orphan command, meaning they didn't have a chaplain. People, they really appreciate this kind of recognition. And by the way, the fewer awards you give like this, the more impact they have. So I know organizations are used to, you can see some of my plaques here from, this is a scholarship I got. That's my college degree. I have some other things here, like from when I was in the Boy Scouts and such. Although plaques are, and little statue things, they're very nice. There's something about a medal that is different than all of these things. So you can't stop. Let's see if I'll turn it here. So here's my Eagle Scout medal. I got this when I was 13, and I'm still proud of that because of all the hard work it took to get and what it meant in terms of my achievement as a very young man. People appreciate it, especially when you imbue real meaning in these things. And we can do this. Like I said, I think they work particularly well in for a nonprofit, but even in the for-profit world, I think we can do these things. We can build them into our culture. And I have a friend of mine who is a world-renowned Shakespeare teacher, and he also happens to be, I didn't know this until a few years ago, he happens to be a Goethe scholar. Goethe is the great German writer. And for his work in promoting the work of Goethe, the German government awarded him a medal. I don't remember exactly what it's called. But when I see my friend out for coffee or something, he'll be wearing a sports coat, and he'll have the medal pinned on his sports coat. And good for him. I mean, I've never seen anyone else with that medal, a medal like that pinned on their sports coat. And it was something he worked really his whole life long promoting the work of Goethe. And so he well, my opinion, for what this is worth, he really deserved it, and he should show it off. And I think it's a nice thing for him to do, to 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 show appreciation for how the German government recognized him, and to take a couple of at least metaphoric bows for the service he rendered in terms of advancing Western culture. So I encourage you to think about this. Obviously, it doesn't need to be as elaborate as the military that has, dozens and dozens of individual war, personal decorations, unit citations, individual awards. You don't have to go that, but maybe you have just 2 or 3 for different things. I think you might be surprised how much people really, showing my age, really dig that kind of recognition. So that's our show for today. Hope you found it interesting. A little bit of insight into the military and how all this stuff works. Tomorrow, my show is People Making Money. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm trying to remember what our topic is. Hold on one second. I'm going to tell you. It is, oh yes, we're going to be talking about the state of the economy. So, we hear about what inflation is or unemployment, but those are all national numbers. They don't mean anything to us as individuals, really. They only indicate sort of the general direction of the national economy. So I'm going to take you through the numbers, show you where to find them. And this will really help you understand how your life is being affected by economic issues. So I invite you to tune in again tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then next Monday is my show, Trust and Estates Weekly, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And my guest is Paul Doherty. And Paul is going to be talking about the 5... Hang on one second. I got to tell you this. The 5 myths. I'm sorry, it's not Doherty. It's Paul DeLogary. And he's going to be talking about the 5 myths of probate debunked. So I'm looking forward to that, because I'm not sure I know what the 5 myths of probate are. So that should be a great show with Paul. And then 7 days from today will be the next edition of Business Lessons from the Military. So thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, and signing off. Marie, you are my bell. All the best, folks.